Good evening, everyone, and welcome to SGT's first annual Women in Aerospace panel. Also, happy International Women's Day, as we embrace this year's theme of choosing to challenge gender bias and stereotypes. My name is Olivia, and I'm the current president of SGT, and I will be moderating the panel tonight. We are so delighted to have four incredible women in the aerospace field joining us. We have Dr. Vanessa Aponte-Williams, Dr. Ting Dong, Joan Melendez-Meisner, and Kara Robinson. So without further ado, I'm going to get into their bios before we begin. So Dr. Vanessa Aponte-Williams is the Human Landing System Ascent Element Mission Operations Senior Manager. Previously, she led human spaceflight exploration and advanced programs commercial civil space, helping shape Lockheed Martin's strategy for deep space exploration, as well as investing in the advancement of technologies that support the vision for a thriving lunar and deep space economy. She has 20 plus years of experience in the aerospace industry, primarily as a systems engineer. Her current role is twofold: to ensure end-to-end mission operations integration between design and crew, and to develop systems utilized to train the astronauts and flight controllers that will fly those missions to the moon. Vanessa worked in the areas of advanced life support, controls, dynamics, and propulsion at NASA Kennedy, Dryden, and Johnson Space Centers. She had the distinction of being a finalist and undergoing the astronaut selection interview process at NASA Johnson Space Center twice in 2009 and 2012. Welcome, Vanessa. Our next panelist is Professor Ting Dong, who is a lecturer in the Department of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering. She teaches various courses, including Aerospace Design 1 and 2, Finite Element Analysis, Mechanics of Materials, and Mechanical Engineering Design 1. She obtained her master's degree in materials science and PhD in mechanical engineering, both at UF. Before joining UF, she was a licensed aircraft maintenance engineer in China Southern Airlines. This industry experience paved the way for her PhD research. Her presentation, Prognostics and Health Management of Aircraft Structures, won the runner-up in 3MT competition at UF in 2017 and People's Choice Award in Florida statewide competition in 2018. Welcome, Professor Ting Dong. Our next panelist is Joan Melendez-Meisner. Joan is a missions integration systems engineer at NASA for the Launch Services Program located at Cape Canaveral, Florida. Joan currently works on management of space and aeronautical flight systems, vehicles, and their payloads, including design and operational requirements definition, hardware and or software development, testing, verification, safety, integration, certification, and operations for all non-crewed missions. Joan volunteers throughout the community and is fully involved with STEM outreach programs, including judging robotics competitions, mentoring middle and high school age students, and participating in the Women in Math events. She was chosen as a Wonder Woman for the STEMing event due to her endeavor in the community. She was also chosen to be a part of the DoD's 30 Under 30 promotional video, which aimed at raising awareness about STEM career opportunities among college students studying in STEM. Additionally, she creates STEM content on both Instagram and TikTok under the name Your Female Engineer. It's a great account. Welcome, Joan. Our final panelist is UF's very own Kara Robinson. Kara graduated from the University of Florida with a BS in mechanical engineering and minor in biomechanics in 2018. In 2019, she completed an MS in mechanical engineering, specializing in solid mechanics, design, and manufacturing, and also completed a certificate in engineering leadership. Between 2 internships and a full-time position, she has been employed at Lockheed Martin in Orlando for nearly 4 years. Within this time, Kara has held several mechanical and hardware design roles on a myriad of programs, but is currently part of the Engineering Leadership Development Program. Her current rotation is as a risk and operations manager across the F-35 development market segment, where she interacts daily with senior and executive leadership to assess and mitigate millions of dollars of risk and opportunity across all F-35 development contracts. Before Lockheed Martin, Kara spent 4 years as a teaching assistant at UF in a prototyping machine shop for mechanical design and manufacturing course. So now, going into our next segment, we can flip this slide. We are so honored to have such a distinguished woman here with us tonight. Without further ado, I'll let each panelist briefly introduce themselves on a more personal level, and then we can go right into the Q&A moderated portion of the panel. So let's first start with Vanessa Williams.
Well, thanks for the kind introduction, Olivia. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. So excited to meet other strong women in the aerospace field. I have had the privilege to have a super fun and dense career. And when Olivia asked me to put a slide together, I wanted to put a little bit of everything that I am and that I care about. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and went to the Universidad de Puerto Rico at Maya West for my undergrad and master's in chemical engineering, and then ended up in Boulder, Colorado, did the PhD in aerospace engineering there, where then my career in aerospace unfolded. And it's been quite the exciting 20, I can't believe it's been 20 years of aerospace career. Quite fun. And I have a family of 4. I should actually say 5, because we have a puppy, that a pandemic puppy, I should call, and everybody's having fun with it. I worked at NASA Johnson Space Center in NASA Dryden, where I did my internships, and I had the privilege to be a finalist a couple of times in the astronaut selection cycle, and I have 5 friends that are flying in space or about to fly in space, so pretty cool. Have the things that I do for fun when I'm not in aerospace engineering. Climbing is my go-to thing to do. Love ceviche and love food. It's killing me that during the pandemic we're not able to go out as much as I love to, or travel. So yeah, so and then that's just a few of the things that make my career and who I am, besides just all about the aerospace engineering stuff. So thanks for having me here.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to Dr. Ting Dong.
So I'm Ting Dong. So my education background, Olivia already talked about. So before I came to UF, I was a structural engineer in China Southern Airlines, and about what teaching experience is already mentioned in the introduction. Thank you. And for I probably will talk about my hobbies. So the first one is cooking. So I love cooking a lot, and I cook like almost, except that I need to hang out with friends outside. Otherwise, I'm cooking for myself. And I also like doing a lot of research on the health and nutrition. So a lot of times I consider myself like a self-identified health and nutrition expert. So that's just like one of my hobbies. And also I like music, and right now I'm the pipa player in a Chinese traditional music group at UF. So I feel really, it's like my great pleasure to be invited to this. Actually, I was really surprised when I was invited. I feel like I'm really like super new here. So thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you.
We're so delighted to have you, Professor Ting Dong, and you are, it is our pleasure to have you. You are more than worthy to be here. So our next is Joan Melendez-Meisner.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. So my name is Joan Melendez-Meisner, or Joanne in Spanish. I am also from Puerto Rico. I was not born there, however, my whole family was born in Puerto Rico. I was the oddball out and was born in Panama. So I am a NASA engineer, systems integration NASA engineer. I started my career at NAVAIR, Naval Air Systems Command, for about 8 years. So I was in aerospace working on F-18s, the 53K helicopter program, fuel systems, a whole bunch of stuff that I was able to, learn as my career in aerospace, and I switched over to space more recently. I have a dual bachelor's in chemistry and chemical engineering from the University of Maryland, and a master's degree in systems engineering from Naval Postgraduate School. Some of my hobbies, as it's on the slide, I wish I did a better slide. I mean, everyone's talking about like food and stuff. I mean, I love food. But, a lot of my hobbies involve, I love music. I was a band nerd. I grew up in Orlando, so University of High School. I was in marching band. I was in orchestra. So I played the piano, guitar, clarinet, saxophone. So I love playing music. I love playing sports, tennis being my number one thing that I love to play. I also love photography and videography. I got into that a few years ago. I am a backup photographer for one of my friends' wedding photography companies. So I'm a backup photographer there. And then my main passion is science communication. As they mentioned, I have a platform at Your Female Engineer. I love doing science and STEM content. Specifically, my content it revolves around, more kid friendly, so like science experiments, but at the same time, I also talk about, advice for people in high school and in college who want to either go into NASA or go into the space industry. I talk about struggles that I went through. I'm pretty sure we'll talk through the panel, like imposter syndrome and all that stuff. I love posting that because I love being open. So I had a lot of mentors getting me to where I am today. So therefore, I want to extend that. And with social media, it's so great because you're able to meet so many people on there without actually meeting them in person, and give advice through that platform versus the old ways of just like having to meet one-on-one or like a phone call. So I'm really excited to be here, and I'm excited to be on this wonderful panel with these amazing inspirational women.
Thank you so much, Joan. We're so excited to have you and learn more about your outreach through social media, as well as it's so interesting to see that so many of us are involved in music. The connection between STEM and music is really interesting. So yeah, there'll be so many more topics to get into, but let's go ahead and introduce Kara Robinson.
Hey, thanks, Olivia. So I'll just kind of start from left to right. So I'm an only child, and I love it. I was born and raised a Gator. Like you said earlier, I am a double Gator. I got my bachelor's and master's in mechanical engineering from UF. Best place to be, love it. During my time at UF, I was a TA for the design and manufacturing lab over in the mechanical and aerospace building. So anyone that's on the call, whether you're a student or you're part of the MAE department, DML, you guys should know that. So it was really fun time, and I learned so much there, and I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. I'm also the mom of my beautiful baby girl, Kona. She's a Husky Shepherd mix, and she is the light of my life. So, we're working from home and doing this seminar from home, and she's currently laying right next to me. So if you hear some snoring, I promise it's not me, it's her. So we go along to the bottom row there. I played club volleyball for UF. And then I quit my indoor days and I moved out to the beach. So I do play a lot of beach volleyball now, and I still travel all around Florida, playing in different competitions. And that's my getaway. And I also love to do the different savage races and mud runs. I don't do that nearly as often as I should, but it's a nice getaway. So I was born on the East Coast of Florida. And my dad's a commercial fisherman, so I am very spoiled with fresh seafood all the time, and being, part of the water growing up, so that's something that I take for granted, but it's something that never gets old. So that's definitely a part of my life. And much like everyone else, I love music. I love playing music. Guitar is a big part of my life, and piano. I played 8 years. I took 8 years of classical piano lessons, and music's another getaway that I have. So thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kara. Without further ado, we can get into the next segment. Thank you all so much for sharing a little bit more about yourself, You all have incredibly interesting backgrounds and interests and experience, and I know that you'll provide amazing different perspectives tonight as we discuss the different challenges and adversity that women have to overcome in the aerospace industry. Right off the bat, let's go ahead. I want to ask Kara a question. So Kara, you've since graduated the University of Florida and you're now pursuing a career at Lockheed Martin, and you had a couple of internships with them. I know right now a lot of students are in a battle of trying to find an internship or job, especially with COVID going on. How did you get your internships, and what sort of advice would you give students who are still searching?
So one thing that I learned early on was that, I was always used to getting my way. I'd apply for something, I'd work hard, and I would expect to get it. But that wasn't the case, right? So when you're applying for internships, be diligent and just apply for everything, every job, every opportunity, because something that I've learned from the internships I've had and any experiences that I've had is that you're always learning. So whether it's something that you didn't see yourself doing or that you didn't think that you would have an interest in, you'll still learn. And I got my internship by applying to several different companies for internships and going to the different career fairs and, standing in line for hours and hours and handing out my resume to everyone and going through the different interview processes and doing the speed interviews. And honestly, it was a great experience to be able to have that elevator speech ready to go. But my position with Lockheed, I got by applying online. So I was lucky enough to get a call back from them, and my experiences on campus, especially working in the DML lab, that really kind of pushed me over the top. So, be involved on campus and get your hands dirty in anything that you can, anything that you're interested in, because it'll pay off.
Yeah, that's some great advice. I know DML is so intensive for all those UFN students. So being a TA for that course for 4 years must have really given you a ton of skills that you could use during an interview and really impress recruiters. So yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. All right, so sort of related, I want to direct this question at Joan. So you've worked at some pretty impressive places, and a lot of us are about to graduate and go into work full time. Did you ever experience imposter syndrome, and how did you overcome that or deal with that and when you were first starting your career?
I dealt with imposter syndrome from college up until now. It's something that, all of us will have to deal with, whether, just because you graduate college, there's always going to be some doubt in the back of your mind of, how did I get this new job, or how did I get here? I've been very lucky. I've had a lot of mentors along the way. I started with NavAir, went up to Blue Origin, and now NASA. And each and every time, what I usually do to overcome imposter syndrome is I have something called a brag sheet. And it really helped me along the way, because every single time I thought that I didn't deserve to be, where I am, a NASA engineer or Blue Origin or anything like that, I would write down all of the accomplishments that led me to get that position where I was. So whether it was, I did internships, one of my favorite catchphrases is network to get work. So, I went to a lot of job fairs like Kara, she, standing in line, handing the resumes, talking to recruiters. Now it's a little bit different because of COVID. You're not physically going to these job fairs, but there's some companies are doing online job fairs. Having your LinkedIn ready and updated on the spot, because a lot of these recruiters are looking at LinkedIn now because of COVID. But writing all that down and then looking at it and going over to see how much I've accomplished thus far is something that really helped me along the way, because again, it's something that you can look at you fresh and right in front of you, get to list everything that you've accomplished. And then you realize that, yes, I do deserve to be here. Yes, I do deserve being an engineer in this field. And so that would be my advice of overcoming your imposter syndrome. Another way is talking about it, because there's just so many people who are also dealing with the same imposter syndrome that you are. And it's, again, that's what, so at least I use social media. It's a great outlet to talk to so many different people and say, wow, I failed organic chemistry, yet, I still got to be a chemist, or a chemical engineer. And so talking about these syndromes and talking about it to, social media or your tight-knit group of friends also gives you confidence to overcoming it as well.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I think as women too, a lot of times we'll go into these careers and think, was I just a diversity hire, or was I really here for my skills? So I think women especially experience imposter syndrome, especially coming out straight out of college. So just trying to keep that perspective that, yeah, I was meant to be here, reaching out to other friends. I think having a network of women in the field to really keep your head straight and remind you all the time, like, this is where I'm meant to be, and I'm not just a diversity hire. I earned this. So that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that you found your place at Blue Origin and then NASA. So that's incredible. Okay, so my next question, on the other side, we also have academia. I wanted to direct this question at Dr. Ting Dong. How did you know that you wanted to pursue a PhD and pursue academia? I know a lot of juniors and seniors, I know myself, have always struggled with whether you want to jump straight into a PhD or go into industry. What really led you to academia?
So I would say that when I was in my undergrad, and when I graduated from my undergrad, I didn't think about go to graduate school or get a PhD degree or anything. I didn't think about anything like that. I got an offer from the China Southern Airline in China. It's like a big thing because that company is big. And so I was just like, I thought, okay, I'm lucky. I got a job. So I worked in that company for several years. And then it's like happening at one time that the first aircraft, the Boeing 787, delivered to China Southern Airline. So they sent several structural engineers from Boeing to our company to train the structural engineer in our company in China Southern Airline. So I was one of the trainees there, and so in the whole classroom, I was the only woman engineer, structural engineer there, and for all the trainers sent from the Boeing company, there was only one woman trainer, structural engineer. And so she was like always after every class, like there were like 20 minutes break, and she always walked to me and talked to me, and we became friends very quickly. And then to be honest, I was like, at that time, I really admire of her job, her position, everything. And when we talk, and then she said, you know what, I think you should go to graduate school and get a PhD degree. And the first response was, no, that was like too difficult for me because I have been working for several years. I forgot everything, and taking the GRE and taking the language test is like is a huge thing. And she said she also work first, and then she feel like, okay, she want to go to graduate school. So she prepared all the exams and work during daytime and prepare the exams at night, everything. And said, if you stick to it and if you like persistent, you can definitely do it. The people who fail is because they cannot stick to the end. And so she kept encouraging me even after the training process. She left. She still emailed me like very frequently and encouraged me everything. So that's the why I decided that I really want to go to graduate school. I want to come to US and get a PhD degree.
Yeah, that just brings to light how important it is to have women mentors to really guide you along in the process and encourage you. Because I know, like, I wouldn't be where I am without the woman mentors guiding me through undergrad and then through industry in the future. So that's awesome to hear that you had that, even though she was the only other one. That's incredible. Sort of piggybacking off of that. So now that you're in academia, do you ever feel discouraged by how few professors in aerospace are women? And how do you think we can make academia a more sustainable career for women?
To be honest, I don't feel discouraged or anything. I personally don't feel there's any difference between me as a women faculty in aerospace, or my colleagues, there are majority of them are men faculty in the aerospace, I don't feel anything difference. I'm just feel lucky that I finally at a position work on the thing that I really like and really enjoy. And of course, it's like not everyone have the same opinion as me. I also been questioned by some people before, like if I'm really capable of teaching aircraft design kind of thing, and keep asking my background if I really have the aircraft industry experience kind of thing. I think sometimes it's kind of tough situation, but I think the best thing we can do when we are questioned over our capability, if as a woman in aerospace, as a woman faculty in aerospace, when I was questioned if I really capable of doing something that that is supposed to be my job, I would say that the best thing we can do is just be strong and work hard and prove them wrong.
Yeah, that's definitely a great motivation. I know I always think of, I want to be sort of like leading for the next generation of young girls who are wanting to pursue STEM or wanting to be an aerospace engineer. We're just like leading the pack, trying to make it more accessible for everyone. That's great. Yeah. So my next question I want to direct towards Dr. Vanessa Ponte-Williams. So a lot of women worry that they won't be able to continue their career after having children, or that they'll get behind their male counterparts after being gone for so long. How did you transition when you had kids, and how did you continue to support your family while also pursuing your personal career goals?
Yeah, I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you it was challenging, and it took really a lot of soul searching and understanding what my priorities were and where I wanted to go. And also, I'm hard-headed and Puerto Rican, which go hand in hand. I should say I'm ambitious. So I would say it was an iterative process for me. I first expected of me to do everything, because a lot of times, and I don't know about the other ladies in the panel, but whether it's a cultural, whether we're raised to think that we can do it all, or whether it is that comes with the ambitious genes, I thought I can do it all. And so at times I ran myself to the ground. I burned myself out, and it was painful. It was painful, but as I guess as I got older, I started revisiting my priorities. I started thinking, okay, if I'm gonna continue to pursue the career that I love and I want to have children, then I have to have a plan. I have to have balance in my life. I have to make room for things that will bring me joy, for things that will keep me healthy. And so I couldn't be on for 18 hours a day like I was when I was a grad student anymore. I had to, and I found that I was more efficient when I worked less, if that made any sense, because I was having fun, because I was recharged. I was more efficient when I was on. When I had to work, I was on doing work. And then I look forward to being with my family, and I look forward to just doing stuff that was rewarding for me. So I would also say that, just like the other panelists were mentioning about mentors are very important. Champions are extremely important. And there's a difference in the two, because a mentor, and I had many, and I seeked out many through my career, allows you learn skill sets from mentors, and it's a give and take with your mentors. With champions are a little different. They're people that they see something in you. whether it's a passion, whether it's a spark, whether it's realizing that you have a talent that you haven't even discovered yourself, whether you have a wicked imposter syndrome and they know you can overcome it and they still offer you opportunity. So these champions offer you opportunities. They open doors for you. And I had the opportunity to observe a few women leaders that were ahead of me and reach out to them and have them open the doors to opportunity and also give me feedback on how they made it happen, how they found their balance. Everybody's balance looks different than the others. It depends on what makes you happy. It depends on what's accessible to you. Not everybody has the same, they don't have access to the same things. So it was a combination of having champions and also allowing myself to have balance in my life. And it, again, iterative process. It gets better, and sometimes life situations are not, the situation is not the best, and then you have to go back to the drawing board and rethink, okay, what makes sense now, and not be afraid to change it up and try new things.
Yeah, that is a great perspective. I think everyone's journey, it looks different from someone else's. So having those, like you said, champions to really cheer you on and guide you through whatever goals you have really is incredible and a great thing to have.
Yes.
But sort of building off of that, women have to go through quite a bit of a different experience than men in the industry, just as it's a male-dominated field. What sort of strengths do you think come from being a woman in the aerospace industry or STEM in general? And that's directed at Vanessa again. Sorry about that.
What I have found from being a woman in terms of skill sets that I have observed other women in the field as well, it's the ability to, and this is my personal experience, I will caveat it, it's the ability to diffuse really intense discussions and situations by bringing a completely different perspective, or by paying attention to people's personalities and the way they communicate, so that you open the door to the conversation to people that are normally not included. And I feel that women are team players that bring different skill sets and that recognize other skill sets that that normally would not be considered as important. And I have been able to be, I guess, to complement my I've worked with a lot of male leaders, and what I've found is that I always find a niche for me in terms of the things that they pay attention to versus what I pay attention to, and end up helping tag team a team and bring in I guess more holistically complete the team. And so, you know, in a field as aerospace where I'm seeing more and more women, and I'm excited about that. What I experienced leading up to now is it's a growth and ability to provide something that normally I don't see with other male leaders, just because of the expectations that have been placed on male leaders and the way that they have been brought up to be. It's a great time. Things are changing, and so it's getting better and better.
Yeah, you stated it perfectly. Women definitely bring a different perspective than men to the table, just from the ways that we had to grow up in the industry and grow up in the field of aerospace. And it's those certain traits that aren't, like you said, aren't necessarily seen as what brings strength to the team that really makes all the difference. Yeah. So, okay, my next question is going to be directed at Kara. So a lot of women in undergrad experience a sort of competition, especially with other women in the aerospace or mechanical engineering field, just because you feel as though there's only space for one woman on the team or one woman in the position. Just from seeing the lack of diversity in general, it's usually 7 males to 1 female or whatnot. So it creates this sort of toxic relationship between your female counterparts at times. Did you ever experience that in undergrad? And what would you say for those who are experiencing that, how we can change the perspective to support other women and lift each other up versus bring each other down?
Yeah, definitely. So I was lucky enough to have one of my best friends, go through the program with me, and we leaned on each other a lot. So just having that network and expanding our network, to the other women that were in our classes with us, that was a great support system to be able to bounce that off of each other. And it kind of goes back to the imposter syndrome that we were talking about earlier, because you see your 7 to 1, male counterparts, and you're the only woman on the team going through a project for a class, and you may feel overrun at times. However, you just got to stick to your guns, and you're there for a reason. You wouldn't be otherwise. If you didn't have the marks, or if you didn't have the experiences that you have, you wouldn't be at UF, pursuing your degree, and, you wouldn't be where you are today. So imposter syndrome at its finest, right? So just, keep your head up and keep pushing, just keep your nose to the grindstone, and really focus on, doing your work. And like I said, get those friends around you, because having someone that's in the same position as you, to lean on at times, especially when things get tough, when your classes get tough, or you have a big exam coming up, or a big project that's due, it gets stressful. But having that support system's really, really great.
Yes, definitely. I could totally agree with that. I have been lucky to have a few great female friends as well, who have really, we've just stuck together throughout the 4 or 5 years. And that's helped all the way, especially with imposter syndrome, like you said. But yeah, this is going to be more directed at Joan now. I think it's really important that women build each other up so that we can all succeed together, like we were saying. How is having a network of women in STEM on your social media platform and outreach platforms to turn to advice for inspiration influenced your experience as an engineer?
Yeah, so I call everyone that I've connected with my hype squad, and I truly believe that, because you're there to hype each other up. If you had a bad day in the office, or if you just had a bad experience, you talk through it with your engineering squad, or your hype squad, or whatever you'd like to call it, because they may have experienced the same thing, and they may be able to give you some advice on how to overcome it, or how to, if it comes up again, how to address it. And so I think it's extremely important to be open about everything that you experience. Going back to, I think we were talking about applying for experiences for internships. I know, at least for women, when we look at a job application, we think that we need to be 80 to 90% have that, the experience that they're looking for, 80 to 90% of all the qualifications that they're looking for, compared to men. They apply to mostly all of the, all the requisites without having all of the requirements that they're looking for. And so, talking openly about those experiences are going to help us get more women involved in STEM. Having that hype squad, I keep saying that, but having your people in your corner, giving you the advice to look forward to interviews, whether it's resume advice, interviews, again, stuff that you deal with at work, is always important to help you stay sane and to, help the next generation What I do with my social media is like I said, I'm very open with all of my accomplishments, and I'm very open with all of my struggles. Because I feel like if I get to where I am, I want to make sure that I put a ladder behind me so the next generation can climb up to where I'm at, or even climb higher. I try to make sure that we are trailblazers for the next generation and the future generations, because I know when I look at leaders and engineers that I work with now, they are probably one of two women in the group that they're currently working with. And so now, like Dr. Vanessa was mentioning, the future is brighter because there's more women that are being more involved in STEM. And I think social media is helping change that narrative that it's just male dominated, because you have all of these women talking about in their engineering jobs, they talk about what they do, they talk about everything. And so I feel like, being an open book is extremely important for people to understand, how it is to be in the STEM field.
That kind of goes, yeah. So I think that it's great that we have this new social media platform, especially with TikTok, because it's really broadened the perspective on how many women actually are in STEM fields. And I think that's attractive to a lot of women. It makes more women want to be a part of it because they can use the creative side of their brain to, I don't know, I just think it's, especially for me, it's really been an outreach. I've always loved watching like different women in STEM and aerospace engineering on Instagram. It gives you motivation to continue, even if you don't have those mentors directly in your life, other people who are still pursuing it and succeeding. I want to ask Vanessa another question related to sort of how you express yourself in the workplace. A lot of us have had internships or jobs and have felt limited in expressing our femininity in the workplace. How have you ever experienced that, and what would you say towards women who feel that way?
It has been an evolution, just like everything. So when I started my career, I found myself, especially being a Latina, oh my God. I mean, look at now I am wearing Latina STEM wear. This is by microbiologist, Latina, Puerto Rican Latina. But when I first started, it was a shock for me because I came from Puerto Rico, and you don't notice there that things are not, you're not a minority back home, obviously. It's you are all Latinos. Then I moved myself from the island to do a PhD in Colorado, and I did not look like anyone here. And I found, I remember the first photo shoot that I did for, I can't remember what it was. It was probably some promo for research that I was doing, and having to pick suits that increase my level of masculinity. So I needed to look professional meant to look more masculine, and so because if you get very often you get judged by the way that you look. So if you have long hair, if you don't look like the stereotypical super nerdy, if you don't look like what the stereotype says that you should look like, then it's challenging. So I found myself diluting my roots in the colorful background that I came with, just so that I would be taken seriously. Because if I dressed if I was in a colorful dress and high heels, nobody would ever think that I was an engineer. And so again, an evolution through time. I just got tired of having to hide myself and not bring my full self to work and to everything I did. So after that, I really just embraced who I was, and found that not immediately, but through time, people knew that I meant business, and that taking on more visible responsibilities, where you're leading a team and you're heading technical work, and you're not stopping to do all the chit chat that normally would come with not looking a certain way. It really made me pass that threshold and get to the other side where I feel comfortable just being who I am, joking about it, bringing it up if and I don't know if any of you do this. It's like learn to hit ahead and mention something about it. I remember just making a comment about, well, you didn't expect for me to be so colorful today, or something that would make it a joke more than anything, and lighten up the air than anything. And as a leader now, I have the opportunity to make my space at work, the space for my team, very inviting, ensuring that people get to know each other, that people talk about what they like, and that people can feel comfortable just being who they are. So now I get to create my own rules and promote an environment that will make people feel more inclined to open up and be who they are without having to put a front and just be something what they think they should be.
Yeah, certainly. That's a great perspective, and a great way to really lead a team. Just not having that immediate stereotype for how someone looks, specifically women. Women always feel like they have to prove themselves if they're wearing pink or something that, I don't know. But for example, like I didn't want to wear pink for years, or like thought I didn't like the color because I wanted to prove that I, just fit in with the rest of the men in my degree. So yeah, that's a great perspective.
Now there's Pink Rocket Ship, Bianca Vasquez, right? It's Pink Rocket Ship. She made it so, if not, look her up. She is studying to be an aerospace engineer, and she champions everything pink. She takes pink to another level.
Oh my gosh, that's really awesome. I'll definitely have to look her up after this.
Yep.
But for our final question before we go to our Q&A, this is going to be directed at Dr. Ting Dong. So based on, I guess, sort of tailing off of what we were just talking about, women feeling as though they can dress how they'd like and still be taken seriously, how can men support women in aerospace or STEM in general, and create a more inclusive environment?
How can men support women?
Yeah.
Let me say, don't do anything special. Don't treat us like a special group. Because to me personally, as I said, I don't think there's a difference between me as a woman faculty in aerospace. And also when I was a structural engineer in China Southern Airlines, I was the only woman structural engineer out of 400 people in the structure department. And I really didn't like the feeling that I was considered as a special person in that department, as the only woman structural engineer. So I think the best thing men can do is that don't do anything special to us. We are just, when I was structural engineer, I was a qualified structural engineer. When I'm a faculty here, I'm a faculty. So I don't want people to see me as like, oh, a woman in aerospace, and feel like this is supposed to be men's area, and do you need some special help, or do you need to be protected from some challenging work? That kind of things like happened a lot when I was in China Southern Airlines. It's like they are kind of like protect me from some challenging work because they consider I'm the woman structural engineer, like a special creature there, something like that. So I would consider that the best thing men can do is that just consider as us woman engineer as engineer. There's no difference between me and my men colleagues in aerospace. we are doing the job we like and we work hard. That's it.
Perfectly stated. All right, well, thank you all so much.